I hope everybody had a really good weekend. I hope everybody took a little bit of time this weekend to continue to prepare. I took a little time this weekend and I was just reading some articles that I want to share with you. And what I'm noticing more and more is they're talking a lot more about inflation, and they're talking a lot more about this eviction crisis, this eviction avalanche that is going to crash and set millions of families further down the path of despair, poor health, economic and housing instability. There's no recovery, ladies and gentlemen. This is all just fake. And any recovery that is taking place is being propped up and supported by the Federal Reserve with massive injections. And the recovery is helping the top 1%. The middle class, the lower middle class, and the poor are being absolutely annihilated. Again, there is no recovery, and opportunity is slim to none. We are seeing less and less opportunity, and there are going to be fewer and fewer homes for people when this day of reckoning arrives, because we're going to see millions of people evicted. We're going to see a foreclosure crisis in the housing market. There's no doubt in my mind that we're going to see the worst housing crash in world history. And it's going to be these pension funds and these investment companies like BlackRock. It's going to be this foreign money coming in. It's going to be hedge funds that have just inflated this bubble beyond anything humanly possible. They're going to crash this housing market. They're going to get bailed out. You'll lose your house. They'll get bailed out, and guess what? They're going to come in during this fire sale in the housing market, and they're going to scoop everything up. They're going to be the ones to cause this bubble to blow up, and then they're going to get bailed out if needed. And they're going to come in, they're going to scoop it all up, while millions of Americans are going to be in a crisis. They're going to be wiped out, and they're not going to know what to do. They're not going to get a bailout, ladies and gentlemen. Corporate America, the hedge funds, the big banks, the investment companies, they'll get the bailout. They'll get the help. You'll lose your house. Article on CNBC I was reading today, a massive wave of evictions could be coming. Who's at risk? And look, this is just an absolute recipe for disaster here when you have this eviction crisis coming on top of inflation, on top of everything else. The day of doom, ladies and gentlemen, is not going to be avoided. This eviction moratorium ends this month here in California at the end of this month. It may end at a different date in your state, but in many states, it's going to start ending at the end of this month. Could it be extended? Yes. But it is not going to be extended forever. Make sure, if you're in this situation, that you are making a plan now, an exit strategy, because you may be evicted. 12 million people face evictions. Let me clarify that. 12 million families face eviction. There are people who have, and how do we get to this number 12 million? Because these people have already had legal action taken against them. What about the 1 million, 2 million, 3 million people who haven't had legal action yet filed against them? This 12 million is a very conservative number. We could see 14, 15, 16 million people facing eviction. This number is going to get bigger. $70 million in rent is in arrears. This is rent, $70 billion of rent that has not been paid. $45 billion in rental assistance allocated by Congress has gotten out at a snail's pace. There is help on the way, but it's going to be way too late. And if you're depending on the government to save you, forget about it. The government can't do anything right. It cannot run a business. It can't get you your check on time. It can't get you rental assistance. It's just an absolute joke. Again, people dependent on the government. I mean, we allow the government to do more and more, and it's just more and more shenanigans. What we need to do is have the government just get out of the way, let the private sector take care of things, and we'd be in a much better place. DeKalb County, Georgia, just 3.5% of its rental assistance funds have been distributed as of this month. Think about that. So many people in help, and there is money there, there is assistance, and most people will never, ever see it. So I ask you this, who's at risk? And it's a lot of people who are at risk, but in this article on CNBC, it lists some of this out. And it really depends on the state that you're in. Some states are doing better financially than others. Some states have more job opportunity than others. Some states have less people delinquent on rent at this point. So it really depends on the state. Some states, again, lost more jobs than others and have less or more opportunities. So depending on your state, it really matters here. But black renters are more than twice as likely to be behind on the rent than white renters. So this is really going to affect the African American sector of America. Households with children are twice as likely to report struggles. So we're going to see families in really, really big trouble here. People with children, they need to rent bigger houses or bigger apartments, and they need more bedrooms because they have kids, which means they're more expensive and much easier to fall behind. Single parents who are renters, a majority of them are women, face some of the highest hardship rates, with more than 26% saying that they're not caught up on their rent. People in the hospitality industry, in the restaurant industry, these people are highly affected because many of them lost their jobs, and many of them lost their jobs permanently. In certain areas, the hospitality sector is coming back, restaurants and bars, but in some states, they're at 50% capacity, 75% capacity. The clientele isn't coming back like it once was. Many people still scared to go out. Many people limited by their funds. So it's going to get harder and harder to provide. It's getting harder and harder to make money. If I can say one word of advice this evening, is if you've got an income coming in, whether that's a government subsidy like an unemployment check, a benefit, whatever it may be, you must get a side hustle. Be your own asset. Be good at something. If you have a skill set, use it. Go get a side hustle, 2 side hustles, whatever it takes right now to bring in extra income. The hedge. 2 big problems are plaguing the economy. New small business survey reveals. Well, what is it? It's the labor shortage, because many people don't even want to go back to work, and it's inflation. And you talk about a perfect storm. You look at the inflation, you look at the job crisis, you look at wages, you look at this economy, you look at the debt, the deficits. It just goes on and on and on. This is the perfect storm, ladies and gentlemen. It is not going to be avoided. It is going to be absolutely devastating with what we're going to see financially. All the money that's being printed over the last couple of years is causing these problems. 25% of the money in circulation has been created since January 2020. We have more dollars right now, but that doesn't mean that you have more stuff. What it means is we have more dollars chasing less stuff, which equals inflation. And what's the answer? Well, the government says we're going to have to pump in more stimulus. We're going to have to print more dollars. We're going to have to create more debt. We're going to have to devalue the currency. We're going to have to keep rates at zero. Again, recipe for disaster. They're stuck. They raise rates, the whole thing blows up. If they stop printing and giving stimulus money to people and government subsidies, the whole thing blows up. So we're in a real serious situation here, and there's no way out. All they can do right now is, instead of raising rates, instead of just stopping all the money printing, which will be catastrophic, the solution is just keep printing money to pay down this debt, which is never going to pay down the debt. It just makes the debt bigger and bigger. You cannot print your way out of debt. And they understand this. They realize this. But what they're doing is just keeping the patient on life support, keeping this thing going until it no longer goes. It's not going to be up to the government. It's not going to be up to a central bank, the Federal Reserve. It's not going to be up to anybody. It'll happen when it happens. When the market says it's time to collapse, it will collapse. When the market no longer can take the injections of this medicine, when it regurgitates everything, when it just goes into a seizure, it's just going to say it's over. That the market is going to dictate when this is all over. And I think we're getting very, very close. Another article on The Hedge today, 5 signs that America's raging inflation crisis is accelerating. You know, there's still people out there, believe it or not, that believe that inflation isn't that bad, that we're really not seeing any inflation. Real inflation is at 8%, according to Shadow Stats, John Williams, shadowstats.com. So let's go over the 5 signs that inflation is raging. Again, people believe that it's not, but let's go over this list. CNBC's latest millionaire survey said this: 65% of millionaires are concerned about inflation caused by government spending. 34% of these millionaires said that they were very concerned. And this is a poll that was taken with 750 millionaires being interviewed. Number 2, the biggest banks in the world are now sounding the alarm, such as Deutsche Bank, which says that global economies are now sitting on a time bomb. That should make you feel calm, right? 3, housing prices continue to soar. And why are they soaring? Who's in the market? Who's buying so many of these homes? Investment funds, wealthy investors, foreign investors, pension funds, hedge funds, all gobbling up property by the neighborhoods, okay? They're not coming into your town and going, oh, I'll buy maybe that house there and a house there. No, they're coming in to builders like D.R. Horton going, we'll buy all 300 of your homes, all of them, at 20 to 50% above listing price. So this is just decimating the housing market. It's inflating this bubble, and it's pricing out the average American. It's pricing out the first-time home buyer. And it is just throwing comps to the moon. And so, you know, everybody goes, well, everything's going great because the stock market's going up, and look at housing. Well, okay, where's the money coming from that's being injected into the stock market? It's coming from the Fed, the buyer and seller of last resort, okay? And who's propping up the housing market? Well, take your pick. Pension funds, foreign pension funds, investment companies, wealthy investors, hedge funds, BlackRock, you name it, okay? So what we're seeing isn't real. It's an illusion. What you're seeing on Wall Street is an illusion. What you're seeing in the housing market is an illusion, and it's all going to come tumbling down. Number 4, used car prices continue to surge. Number 5, food prices soaring. So these are all signs of inflation, and we could continue to put more on this list, but this is what they put on there. You know, when you create new money out of thin air, ladies and gentlemen, prices go crazy and shortages occur. This is, again, another example of inflation. If you're relying on the government to fix these problems, if you're relying on the government to fix this inflation, good luck. They caused it. This crisis is about to go from bad to worse. So make sure to prepare accordingly. And as I come to you on this very warm 103-degree evening here in Palm Desert, I'll leave you with this. Tomorrow, we'll watch some of these business channels, and we're going to hear how great everything is doing. Stock market is up. Housing is up. Look at all the job opportunity. You can go get yourself a $10 or $12 an hour job, even though you're going to need to pay $400,000 for a house, $40,000 for a new car. Isn't life great? We have never seen this type of wealth inequality, and it's getting worse. And I'm so concerned and so worried where this is going, because we are now past the point of no return. There's no going back. This cannot be fixed. The debts are so enormous, and they're getting bigger. If you ever look at the debt clock, this thing looks like it's overheating. There's so much debt. And I worry so much about people with kids and families, and I worry about people who are carrying so much debt. massive mortgages, auto payments, college tuition, credit card debt, payday loan debts, you name it. So much debt out there. And so many people are just one event, one emergency away, a flat tire away from losing it all. How many people are 1, 2, 3 paychecks away from being homeless? We are all going to witness something that we never thought could ever happen here in this country. We are going to witness good people, people who had good jobs, drove nice cars, that are going to be homeless. Many people are going to be exposed to situations that they never thought could happen to them. You know, nobody's immune from this. You could lose your job tomorrow. I could lose my job tomorrow. If you don't have an emergency fund, if you don't have assets put away, if you don't have a strategy, a plan, you're going to be in very, very big trouble. So I can't stress enough as I leave you this evening that you're talking to family members, you're talking to friends about just having a plan if things go south. And, you know, I think that the more friends that we have on board, the more family members that we have awake, the stronger our network is, the stronger all of us are. And this is where people really have to come together, where families and people and friends and churches who've basically checked out need to come together. People cannot do this. The lone wolf, the people by themselves are not going to be able to do this by themselves. You're going to need a real strong network of friends and family to get through this. People, you know, are moving in together. Kids are moving back home. Parents are moving in with kids. We're seeing everything taking place right now. And people are going to have to get their pride out of their way, because right now the main thing is survival, economic survival. If you need to move back home to save some money or pay down the debt, that's the smartest thing to do. Who cares what your friends think? They're broke. Okay, you know, we're so worried about, you know, what we drive or what our zip code is because of what our friends think or what people we don't even know think, right? Who cares? Most people you don't know and most of your friends are broke. This whole thing is such an illusion. You know, you just look at how easy it is to just go drive a BMW today, or a Mercedes or a Lexus. I mean, anybody can lease a car today. You don't even have to make that much money. It's ridiculous. And this is why so many cars are going to be repossessed, and so many cars are being repossessed right now, which they never talk about. We're going to see homes repossess, cars repossess, assets of all shapes and sizes repossess. You know, people have been living a lifestyle for the most part that they can't afford. We have an economy based on consumption, people spending money they don't have on things they don't even need. People buy things just to impress other people. And this country has gotten so lazy, so dumbed down, so spoiled. And this day of reckoning, no doubt, is coming to America, and it needs it. It needs it. In order for this country to survive, it needs a reckoning, in my opinion. The stock market is going to be reckoned, the housing market, the standard of living, everything is going to be rocked here in America. And America, I believe, is going to look like a much different place in the years to come. And I truly do believe that millions of people are going to be wiped out. And these are the people who are not going to now know how to adapt to their new lifestyle. They're not going to know how to adjust to it because they haven't prepared. They haven't read the history books. They haven't looked at the trends. All they think is, let me get on the next Ponzi scheme crypto and I'll be fine. Let me just gamble more in the stock market and I'll be fine. They don't understand how fast a collapse can happen in the years of damage that are going to take place and the years it's going to take to recover. You know, especially if you're older. I mean, just imagine if things crash tomorrow and you're 65, 70 years old. You have 10 or 15 years for it to recover. More than likely you don't. And young people today gambling in these markets, gambling on these Ponzi schemes, so many people just gambling every dime that they have. And how do you recover when we have an economy of consumption? We don't make anything, we don't build anything, we're not creating, we're not innovating. We are now dependent on other countries. So whether you're young or old, how do you rebound from an economic collapse when there's no opportunity, when there's massive wealth inequality and the majority of jobs out there are $10, $12 an hour jobs. Think about it. Right now, in my opinion, I don't give financial advice. This is not the time to be gambling. This is the time to protect your wealth. This is the time to make sure that you have something real, that you're holding something real assets, gold and silver, that you have a cash reserve. The sales are coming, ladies and gentlemen. I believe the real money is going to be made when this crash hits, because things are going to be so cheap. Right now, things are so overinflated, so overpriced. The bubbles have never, ever been this big. And whether you're looking at the stock market or you're looking at housing, I think that these bubbles are the biggest we've ever seen. I believe that they're going to burst. And when they do, there's going to be a lot of carnage out there. Remember, this is much different than '08. The debt is much, much bigger. The opportunity inequality, the wealth inequality, much, much different than it was 13 years ago. But the debt and the deficits just absolutely dwarf what we had back in 2008. The uncertainty now compared to 2008, this is a whole different animal that we're seeing right now. And the manipulation in these markets and these Ponzi schemes that are taking place now in these cryptos didn't have this kind of stuff going on back in 2008 like we do now. And the list goes on. The inflation, what interest rates were around 5% back in '08, now they're at 0. The inflation now, 5%, it's really 8%, nowhere near that back in 2008. Your purchasing power, much better back in '08, much, much worse today. So we could go on and on and on. The Fed balance sheet breaking $8 trillion, $28 trillion in debt in America, $166 trillion of unfunded liabilities here in America, $277 trillion of global debt. Again, dwarfs anything close to 2008, and the unemployment rate of 25% right now here in America dwarfs what we had in 2008. So this is going to be absolutely chaotic when this thing breaks loose. And in my humble opinion, it's going to look more like the Great Depression, if not worse, this time around. So prepare for the greatest depression in world history, not just in our lifetime. It's going to be the greatest depression the world has ever seen. It cannot be avoided, ladies and gentlemen. Mathematically, we are past the point of no return. There is no fixing it. The damage has been done. All they can do now is keep the patient alive until the patient no longer can be kept alive. Stay safe out there. God bless every one of you. Thank you so much for watching. Please share, like this video. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification, and I'll talk to all of you very, very soon.